Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Liberty City. This is our fourth and last part of our retrospective get caught up to where we were when we had the hard drive crash and get adventures going again. So, we are here in the Alderney safe house, if you want to call it that, the place that Ray has given us. Oh, Lord, what a dump. I mean, we are right back to the level of flea bag roach motel apartment that we had back in Broker. It's like thank you, mob. Plus the fact that I'm walking around, it reminds me kind of like GTA 3, where I'm walking around with God knows how much money. I mean, after all, we've done the bank job and got $250,000 from it. So it's not like we can't afford to have a nice place over here in Alderney. But there you go. That's Jersey for you. Anyway, we are going to finish up. When we last left off, we had finished in the last episode. The very last mission that we showed you in the last episode was the last mission that I had a save file for. That was the one where we have a meltdown, I think it was, where we had to get the diamonds back from Luca and the boys and bring them back to Ray because they had stole some of the diamonds out of the thing, claiming that, I'd hate it if any got lost here in the trash compactor. And so we hunted them down, got the diamonds back, got them back to Ray. Here on out, all these missions are the ones that I had to replay because I didn't have save files for anymore. So the next 25 minutes will be us showing the missions, and they were a lot of fun. I remember these. I remember the first episode really well way back there because I've played it so many times. I remember these missions because I've played them at least twice now. It's the ones in the middle, 2 and 3, that I have a hard time remembering. Some of them remembering even doing, but remembering very much details. These I remember a little better because they're fresher in my mind. So we're going to pick up there. We're going to take it from where we got the diamonds back for Ray all the way up to where I finished playing in Mr. Fuchs Diner, I think it was. I think it's Mr. Fuchs Diner was the last mission I did before the hard drive crash. So we'll do that, get this out of the way, and then next time you see us in Liberty City, we will have new missions for you. So I will see y'all in just a moment here. Having returned the diamonds to Ray, we then head over to the McCreary house to visit with Packy's brother Gerald. He tells us that for once Packy was right, and he's glad we're working with the family. Gerald is working with Ray and the Pecorino family and is tasked with creating problems between the Ancelotti family and their Albanian muscle. He asks Nico to pick up a car bomb left in an alley, put it on the car the Ancelottis are using while meeting with the Albanians, and then follow them to a meeting at an old factory. Once there, Nico detonates the bomb and then kills the survivors in order to make the Ancelottis think the Albanians were responsible for the bomb. Next, we have a random encounter with Shrieks. She is the ex-girlfriend of Dwayne we were given the choice to kill or not back when we were getting Dwayne's money from her then-boyfriend, Javon. She has definitely had poor taste in boyfriends since screwing over Dwayne, and now she's hooked up with a guy that beats her. We go to the apartment complex and beat the hell out of him and tell him to stay away from her in the future. A little while later, Dwayne calls and asks if we're seeing Charisse now. We reassure him that we were just helping her and that she is definitely not our type. We then run into Sarah again. She was the random encounter woman we ran into late at night, complaining that we weren't ogling her and who had told her strange husband that we were her lover. She doesn't remember us at all, and when we tell her about the prior encounter, she tells us she has to stop drinking and taking sleeping pills. He is doing a photo shoot and needs us to go pick up a package for her at the Perseus store. We end up having to pay for the package for her and return it to her to get her out of our life. Returning to Gerald, he's got another mission for the Pegorinos. He says he'd do it himself, but he's being watched by a car and thinks that he's about to get arrested again soon. He needs Nico to go and whack Frankie Garoni, a Ancelotti capo, while disguised as an Albanian. The disguise is courtesy of an Albanian that Gerald conveniently has on ice in the kitchen freezer. We find Frankie over in Star Junction. He leads us on a merry chase that ends in the usual fashion. Nico returns to Drusilla's to get shouted out by Ray about why we haven't been around in a long time, and he needs us to go and get rid of these diamonds he's hanging on to. Nico gets mad and tells him he isn't going to work for him anymore unless Ray starts helping him. Nico gives Ray the name of Florian Kravik as the man he is looking for, and Ray promises that he will try and find him. We then go to the Libertonian Museum to meet up with Johnny Klevitz, the member of the Lost Motorcycle Club we worked with back at the heroin deal that Elizabeta had set up that ended up being a police sting. We go inside and meet with members of the Jewish mob, Isaac Roth and Maury Green, who will be buying the diamonds from us. Things go to hell when Lewis, the eventual protagonist of the Ballad of Gay Tony, who we also briefly saw while he was lying on the floor at the bank while we were robbing it, shows up to take the diamonds back for his boss, Gay Tony, who Johnny stole them from in the first place. He kills Maury and then takes off with the diamonds. Johnny takes off with the cash, and Nico has to fight his way out of the museum through the Jewish mob. When we tell Ray what happened, he is furious and tells us to meet him later and that we deal with Johnny. Back at Drusilla's, Ray introduces us to Phil Bell, an associate of the Pecorino family and longtime friend of the head, Jimmy Pecorino. Phil says Jimmy wants his cut of the money and chastises Ray for not telling Jimmy about the deal. He sends Nico to deal with the bikers who are nearby. Finding the bikers, they take off and lead us through a wild chase through the subway tunnels before we take them out. Calling Ray after, Nico tells him Johnny wasn't there, and Ray says not to worry about it. Ray calls us a while later with information that a man named Talbot Daniels owns Ray money and that he is an acquaintance of Florian's and can be found near Star Junction. We grab Roman and the two of us go to see Talbot. At first he denies knowing Florian, but Roman says he's played cards with him before and knows when he's lying, and then tells Nico he should rough him up a little bit. This causes Talbot's memory to immediately return, and he takes us to Florian's apartment. Nico lets Talbot go and rushes through the building with Roman constantly trying to calm him down. Finding the apartment, we kick in the door and quickly find Florian in the apartment, who is not the traitor we thought he was. Turns out Florian has moved to Liberty City and come out of the closet in order to be his true self. He says he wasn't the traitor and always thought it was the third survivor, Darko Breivik. Florian has changed his name to Bernie Crane and is now dating the Deputy Mayor Bryce Dawkins, a closeted married man who runs on a platform of family values. Later, we get a call from ULP laughing at us and saying if the man we were after was Bernie, he'd immediately told us. He says he'll be in touch. We then get an urgent call from Bernie/Florian asking us to please come to his apartment as he is in need of help. Mallory then calls us asking if Roman has said anything to us about marrying her. She then tells Nico how Roman told her about his deep feelings for her and confessed that he killed Vlad in a fit of jealousy, and she wants to thank Nico for helping Roman hide the body. We tell her it was the least we could do. Returning to the restaurant to see Ray, we walk up as he's having a heated argument with Isaac, the diamond guy from the Jewish mob, on the phone. Isaac thinks that Ray set him up and is threatening to have him killed, so Ray tells Nico to go downtown to the Majestic Hotel and take him out. A brutal running gunfight through the top floor of the Majestic takes place, leading to the penthouse apartment. There we kill Isaac and two other unnamed leaders of the Jewish mob. After escaping, Nico tells Ray and tells him he will not be working for him as his cleaner anymore. We then get a call from Roman telling us the good news that he has proposed to Mallory. Then he talks about how we need to work on getting us a good girl now, and Nico says he is interested in Kate and is working on it.
This is one of the very few plot points that feels kind of forced in this game to me. Mind Fiend has also mentioned about how Kate is obviously set up to be the one we choose to get close to in the game, rather than it be our choice of all the women we are dating. Or, of course, of we get a text from Ray asking us to meet him and Phil Bell down at the depot at the docks. After having told Ray we weren't going to work for him anymore, Nico surprisingly doesn't expect that they are trying to dispose of him and shows up. Phil says there's a load of heroin in town the Triads are trying to get rid of, and that we should help them by stealing it from them. Reaching the Triads parking lot, we have an extended gunfight against a bazillion of them before the truck takes off with its load. Catching up to it, we climb on top and have a heck of a ride across town before jumping in the cab and taking out the driver. Nico then drives it to a mob hideout in Alderney. Next, we come across the second saddest of the random encounters to me, Marnie Allen. Marnie is a young runaway junkie living on the street begging for cash and offering sex in order to get her fix. We take her to meet her dealer and give her some money. A text from Francis McCreary asks us to meet him at his car. He tells us that his brother Derek is a junkie and a criminal, and he wants us to kill him for the good of the community, because he is about to talk to a journalist about his life and family, and that will ruin Francis's chances of becoming police commissioner. And he warns us if we don't do it, he will see that we are put away with all the evidence he has against us. Then Derek calls us, telling us that Francis has asked him to come meet him at a park, and he thinks that Francis is out to kill him. He begs us as a friend to help him by taking out Francis. Climbing an adjacent building, we take out our sniper rifle and watch Derek and Francis having a conversation before making our choice. We meet up with the McCreary family at Francis's funeral. Taking out Francis raises our standing with Packy. If we had chosen to kill Derek, we would have gotten some cash, and we could use Francis in the future like we used Kiki to erase police ratings up to 3 stars. We also find out that Gerald has been arrested and is in the Alderney State Correctional Institute. As the ceremony ends and everyone is going to their cars, the Albanians show up again. There's a huge gunfight outside the church, then Packy and Nico have to hold the Albanians off on a sprint to the cemetery. After the funeral and graveside service, we get a phone call from Gerald, thanking us for being there for his family, and asking us to come see him in prison, and he'll put us on the visitor list. We run into Marnie again in her last random encounter. She is screwed over a John and is afraid that he is going to come after her. She tells us she just wants to go back home, so we take her to the train station, give her some more money for a ticket back home to see her parents. A little later, once again the compressed time situation we have here, we get an email from her saying that she is living with her parents now, she's straightened out her life, she's no longer with her ex-boyfriend, she's getting off the drugs, and she's going to go to college to study psychology. Then Nico runs into a street rapper, Pathos, for the second time. He is still trying to sell his CDs on the street in Star Junction, and still getting violently angry at hecklers coming by. We have to save him from another fight he gets into, but this time he gets shot by one of the people. Taking him to the hospital, Pathos tells Nico he realizes that he's been shot by the magic rapper bullet that so many rappers have been shot by, and they feels this would make his career like it has made so many others. We then get an urgent call from Bernie asking for help. Nico arrives at the apartment, and Bernie tells him that a crazy is stalking him in the park every time he goes jogging or exercising. Accompanying him there and tailing him, we witness a homophobe attack him while he's running. He takes off when Nico challenges him, and leads to a chase through the park and streets that ends with us putting an end to his attacks and stalking. Bernie simply cannot get a break from people attacking him over his love life. Nico returns to his apartment to find him on the phone with his lover, Bryce Dawkins. Dawkins is being blackmailed over his secret relationship with Bernie. Meeting the blackmailers, we find they are working for Dimitri and are planning on taking the information to Weasel News and ruining Dawkins' political career. We chase them down and ensure they will never blackmail anyone again. Later, Dimitri calls Nico and attempts to shame him for working for gay men and tells us he is blackmailing Dawkins into giving Dimitri valuable contracts with the city. He offers us a cut, but Nico warns him to leave his friends alone. Then it's off on our first date with Carmen Ortiz. She is the second most useful romantic interest in the game, as she is a nurse, and once we get our status high enough with her, we can call her if we are injured and get a health boost. This will not, however, work on injuries that are due to gunshots, as she will tell us that bandages won't help bullet wounds. We then had our infamous bro date with Jacob, where we wreck our bike on the bridge and send him flying over the rail to the street's glow and into the hospital. A phone call from Bernie asks for our help as he's having a panic attack. Meeting him at Pier 45, Nico finds that Bernie just wants us to go out on a boat ride picnic with him in order to relax and have fun. He says he knows that fun is a 4-letter word, but we should try it anyway. Unfortunately, before we can have too much fun, a boat full of Russians shows up and attempts a drive-by. A long and exciting boat chase leads to a shootout in a cemetery where we take out Dimitri's assassins. Bernie calls us later, thanking us for helping him out with all his problems. In gratitude, he gives us a present of an Infernus that Bryce had bought for him, with a unique paint job. Nico comments that he hopes it wasn't paid for with city tax money. Nico then gets a call from Phil Bell asking if Nico wants some extra money. He feels that we have the right skills to help someone he knows is the fixer and to go to a certain payphone. This continues the GTA tradition of getting assassination missions by phone. I'm not sure what future GTAs are going to do to continue this as payphones. I know GTA 6 is going to be down in Vice City again. If they don't go backwards in time and they keep it in the modern day, payphones are a nearly extinct species now. The first mission we run for the Fixer involves taking out a target on a speedboat. The Fixer's missions are actually given to the player in a random order, so all these missions I'm going to have to do again. I think there's still 2 or 3 I haven't done yet, and I'm going to have to be ready to record the new ones since the missions aren't given to us in the same order. You know, the next time we talk to them, we could get one of the missions we've already done, and then get a brand new one, and then another one we've already done. So I'll record them as the new ones come up. Having gotten a recommendation from Bell, we next get the opportunity to meet and work for Jimmy Pecorino. He is the head of the Pecorino family and wants a seat on the Commission, which is the organization ruling all the mafia groups. He has a meeting with the Paviano family in order to give them a tribute bribe to gain their support to get the Pecorinos on the Commission. And he wants Nico to come and oversee the mission and act as some insurance. Kind of what we did with Jacob and with Packy, but a little bit more big time. Nico climbs to the top floor of an abandoned warehouse with his partner, Agent Sniper Rifle, and sure enough, it turns out the meeting is a setup. The Pavanos attack the Pecorinos, take out the 2 muscle that he brought with him, and we have to protect Jimmy from being killed by the rival gangsters. Having taken the tribute money, we follow them to an oil refinery and retrieve the cash. We drive the injured Jimmy back to his house, and he rants about how the Pavanos betrayed him, and he needs to get revenge on them. He also totally blows off the death of the other 2 thugs, saying they knew what they were getting into and they are easily replaced. Afterwards, ULP emails Nico informing them that Pecorino is not to be trusted and that there are much more useful people to help him find Argo. We also have to field phone calls from Bell and Ray telling us about the tradition of bumping a taste of the profits to the folks above you. Nico tells them, well then, it's a good thing I'm neither Italian nor a member of the Mafia. The next call we get from the Fixer sends us to the refinery to take out a number of armed gang members who are carrying out a deal. We take care of the situation to his satisfaction. Returning to Pecorino's, we meet his wife, who is sarcastic as hell and absolutely aware of what is going on and how it all operates. I love this lady. I wish she had a bigger role. Pecorino sends us to tell some Pavanos who are making a big cash pickup and then take them all out. We follow them to the autoerotic car showroom and end up in a fiery finish, picking up all the cash they dropped from the protection money for ourselves before fleeing and losing our police rating. ULP calls us after and tells us we are dealing with small fry who are useless to us. He wants us to go meet with John Gravelli, the head of the Gambetti family, who is living out his final days in the Schottler Medical Center. Our next job for the fixer takes us very close at home, directly across the street from our safe house in Alderney. A stripped-out building has 3 targets and a bunch of guards, but good use of cover and a couple of backup gangsters from a phone call to Dwayne gets us through with it. We then go to the Alderney State Prison to meet up with Gerald McCreary after his arrest. He tells Nico how he's been falsely accused of all the charges against him and is planning on cleaning up his act and no longer hanging out with the wrong crowd. All for the benefits of the guards, of course, and then tells Nico to go and see Packy to help him out. Packy tells Nico the plan is to kidnap Gracie, the daughter of the head of the Ancelotti mob. We set up a meeting with her to test drive a car she is selling, and then knock her out and take her back to the safe house. After all that work, Packy says her father doesn't believe she's kidnapped. So Nico has to go to the safe house and get a picture of her all tied up to try and convince him otherwise. That does the trick, and Ray calls to let us know that Ancelotti has agreed to the ransom, though it's going to be Gay Tony who trades the diamonds. Remember those? In return for her. We then come across the saddest random encounter of the game to me, the ex-Mrs. Falston. Since the death of her husband, she's had to leave the house because there's no money to keep paying the mortgage on it, and move into a one-room apartment with her and her daughter, and has a very miserable life. But most of all, she's concerned that her daughter Anna has once again hooked up with another slimeball even worse than the lost biker, and is afraid that he is trying to convince her to become a stripper or something even worse. Nico finds him, and he is convinced to leave Anna alone. So she is saved from her poor taste in men until, of course, the next one comes along. Back at the pen, Gerald lets us know that Gracie's father has agreed to the ransom swap. We go and load up Gracie in the trunk of the car to move her to a new safe house location when we find that the Ancelottis had discovered the safe house and have come to take her back. It's a hectic car chase to get away from them, especially as they seem to have no problem shooting at a car that has their boss's daughter in it. Back at the pen, we see Gerald one last time, and he seems very downbeat and resigned. He tells us that the exchange for Gracie has been set up, but he also lets us know that more evidence has come up about his crimes, and he's going to be in for a long stretch. We meet with Gay Tony and Luis at the sewage works on Charge Island. Tony and Luis get Gracie, but before Nico and Packy can get the diamonds, Ray Bulgarin shows up and says the diamonds are his, that Tony stole them from him, and now we are trying to rob him again, and for his men to kill us. They grab the diamonds, and a running gun battle across the sewage works ensues, until we corner the last of his men with the diamonds, who tosses them over a rail into a passing truck full of garbage. A later radio newscast tells us of a homeless man who became rich when he found a bag of diamonds in the trash dump. Just to rub salt into the wound, Dmitri calls and continues to troll us about why we keep trying to steal things from his good friend Bulgarin. Wishing for simpler, less gray territory, we head to talk to the fixer, who sends us to the industrial park next to the police station. The gang there is quickly taken out with a grenade tossed into the middle of them, allowing us to clear out some frustration. Going to Schottler Medical Center, Nico meets with John Gravelli, who is worried about the Russian mob coming in and trying to muscle the existing mobs out of their turf. He has a good friend, the politician Bobby Jefferson, who has agreed to make a speech at the Civic Citadel urging action against the criminal foreign element coming into the town. We drive Jefferson's car in the ensuing convoy headed downtown until it comes up against a roadblock set up by Dmitri and the Russian mob. Armed with a rocket launcher, they take out the cars, and we have to escape with Jefferson and clear the path of all the Russians along the way. We get him to the Citadel, where he is able to give his speech against the Russian influence in town. Returning to the hospital, Gravelli tells Nico that their mutual friend, ULP, has found Darko Breivik and that he will be coming soon. Gravelli tells us that we should do a favor for ULP and stop a Korean who is smuggling fake money into the country. It just so happens to be the same Korean that we helped Derek McCreary enter the country on a boat back in one of Derek's missions. Gravelli tells us that the Korean is at Mr. Fuchs' restaurant, and we go in and begin working our way up to the manager's office to confront him. Unfortunately, as we duck back into the bar section to recover from the gunfight, Nico is killed by the maitre d' that we left alive behind us. I'm going to do a Schwarzenegger on him next time and do the, "Hey, sorry, remember whenever I told you I would kill you last? Yeah, I lied." And that death was our final mission before the hard drive crash, and we are now caught back up. When next we meet, I'll be running the hit in Mr. Fuchs' restaurant again for Gravelli and ULP, and I'm going to try not to leave anyone armed behind me this time. And after that, it'll be all new missions I've never run before. I'm very excited about that, and I'm looking forward to it. Yay! So thank y'all for coming along on this review of our story so far, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.